Hello, everyone, and welcome to a BSc News AMA with a project called Cartesi, or I think I pronounced that right. From Cartesi, we have Eric. Hello, Eric. First of all, would you be able to introduce yourself at all, and also perhaps the team behind Cartesi as well?
Hello, Tom. It's a great pleasure to be here. Very happy to get to meet you and be here on your program. So, well, about myself, I have been for most of my time an engineer, software engineer throughout my life. I was working for different industries, verticals throughout most of my time. At some points, maybe around 10 years ago, I started to be more like a digital nomad. I went to live in different countries and started to have this kind of remote software businesses where I was like working like a software agency, developing, designing software for third parties. And then around 2016, 17, I started to see this phenomenon of crypto, and that called my attention. And as a software developer, I started to get curious, try to implement some stuff. I was playing with a little bit of trading back then, creating some programs to help me make some decisions. And then I felt that I just entered the rabbit hole, right? So it's bit me back then. Started to learn more about Bitcoin, about Ethereum, about decentralization, and I was fascinated by the whole idea. Well, around the same time, I was living in Taiwan, and I was looking forward to having my own startup to build some nice technology projects. And an old colleague and friend of mine from school, he was a math professor at a research center of mathematics in Rio de Janeiro. He was developing a prototype with his colleague there, both PhDs, one from Princeton, the other one from ETH Zurich. They were developing a prototype for something that would be a kind of a data science marketplace that would run on the blockchain in a decentralized way. And they called me and asked, Eric, we are academics. We have this interesting idea. We need a CEO. We need someone to transform this idea into a real product and business. Would you like to join? And I said, of course. I think that's the perfect moment for me. And then I already had my contacts, my network in Taiwan and other places, and we came up with the seed team for Cartesi back then. And that's how everything started. So the founding team, we had Diego Nehab, which is this Princeton PhD, who specialized in GPU high performance algorithms. And he was working with Augusto Teixeira, who has specialization in probability with some deep knowledge as well in blockchains. And on my side, on the business side, I had Colin Style, who had a good background in VC back then. So very soon we got investment from SOSV, which is a fund in the US. We went to an accelerator program in China in 2018. That's how it all started.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, that's a very in-depth background. Thank you. And obviously, you've got some impressive people on your team. A Princeton PhD is, well, exceptional. So yeah, very interesting indeed. You've sort of already covered what I was going to, well, already covered to an extent what I was going to ask you next, which is, what inspired you to make or create the Cartesi project? Would you be able to tell us, why you decided to found Cartesi?
Well, me personally, I have to confess, I had a little bit of exhaustion from the traditional software industry, and I was looking for something new. And I really fell in love with the concepts of decentralization and blockchain. Meanwhile, the first idea that Diego brought to me related to the data science marketplace didn't caught much my attention. I was a little bit skeptical that could be something that would work as a business. But then as we kept talking about the idea, we realized that, in order to implement this data science infrastructure, we are actually solving a much deeper problem in the blockchain industry. that's when we had this epiphany, this moment of enlightenment in the group. And okay, actually, what we have in hands is a kind of a very generic, interesting layer 2 solution. And that's when I really bought into the idea 100%.
Fantastic. Okay, good. And on your website, we'll bring that up on the screen in just a moment. Obviously, when you go onto it, it highlights that well, it looks like Cartesi is an operating system on the blockchain. So, for example, it says, hello, blockchain OS. Would you be able to explain to us, in perhaps simple terms, the concept of an operating system on the blockchain or a blockchain operating system?
Yeah. Well, it's important to say that, first of all, we are not the first projects to call ourselves a kind of a block OS for blockchains. There are several other projects that try to come up with the same idea. In our case, it's very different because we are the first project to actually bring a strict operating system to the blockchain, meaning that people can actually run Linux in a decentralized fashion for the first time, right? Because operating systems can be used as a term in a very broad sense. I think the OS came to the lexicon of other places in our culture, right? And it's pretty much understood by people who are not even computer scientists nowadays. So it's a very flexible term. So in a sense, we understand when people use the idea of OS for blockchains, but in our case, we are really, really bringing a strict OS to blockchains for the first time. And why is that relevant, right? One might ask. Well, you can see that our entire digital lives are based on OSs like Linux. And by the way, Linux is the prevailing OS. More than 95% of the most important web servers run on Linux. Your Android phone is a variation of a Linux OS. So really, Linux is at the basis of almost everything we use nowadays in our digital life, right? And our life is pretty much digital nowadays, meaning that Linux is at the basis of our world. And it's very interesting to notice that OSs are at the birth of the internet, what we call Web 1.0. When you go to Web 2.0, you also have Linux servers. You can see the cloud phenomenon with AWS, Google Cloud, and etc. All their infrastructure pretty much relies a lot on Linux. And when the Ethereum Foundation comes with the implementation of smart contracts for the first time, and we start talk about Web 3.0, something very weird happens. Suddenly, you don't have an OS anymore. Suddenly, all this evolution of the internet from Web 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 3, in this step, we leave behind the OS. And, well, what that means? It means that software engineer and programming people, they don't have the environments, the tools, the components, the stacks, the languages, and resources that they count on when they develop applications for your phone, for desktop, for laptop, and for the web. And they have to learn a new skill set, right? Solidity, and work with a very limited environment to develop their decentralized logic. So by bringing back an OS, we not only allow current blockchain developers to create much more sophisticated DApp logic, because they'll count on a big variety of software stacks. But we also allow for mainstream developers that are out there, maybe flirting with blockchain, willing to enter. They don't need to learn a new language like Solidity. They can use the paradigm that they are used to for ages, right? So it has also a component of mitigating the entry barrier to the blockchain world. Now, there are reasons why, when you look at Web3, this didn't happen. We saw that as an opportunity and as a deficiency back then in 2017. And from that point onward until nowadays, we are still the only team developing this idea. And now we are about to launch and to have people actually using it. But the reason is that everybody knows about the scalability issues of blockchains, right? So the idea of Ethereum was to create this world computer. But this world computer performs so badly that you cannot run intensive computation or store a significant amount of data, that it was not possible to conceive to boot an operating system on this machine that is so scarce in resources. It's not possible to boot Linux on Ethereum by orders of magnitude. Now, since we were creating a scalability solution that would allow us to have these manifold computation scalability on top of the blockchain, that allowed us to think from scratch a virtual machine that would be very different in its concept from the virtual machines that we see nowadays. Most of the market is kind of dominated by the EVM or EVM compatible implementations, and so on and so forth. So we decided to go take another route. Let's bring AVM. Let's bring an environment that the developers of the world see as familiar and they can use their powerful tools.
Wow. Yeah, that's well, very interesting. And it sounds very well thought out. So yeah, thank you again for the very in-depth answer. So how would developers that are interested in using Cartesi and making anything really on Web3 perhaps use your platform? Where would they go, perhaps on the website, and what would they need to do?
Well, right now with the new website, the developers can already see that we have this very simple entry point, this journey. I think if you scroll down where you are, there are steps 1, 2, 3, 4. That Correct. It's a very easy onboarding for developers.
Fantastic.
And by the way, so we have on GitHub, we have one example application. Very soon we're going to have several other examples and tutorials. Right now we are working intensively to come up with materials, with documentation, with more example applications. And there are other several companies working to produce such examples at this point with us.
Fantastic. Great. Well, thank you very much. Would you be able to explain to us what Cartesi Labs is as well?
So Cartesi Labs is a program that we created to foment initiatives using the Cartesi technology. Right. So it's basically a grant program where we are giving resources, not only money, but also orientation and advisory and all support that's in our reach to startups, to developers, to companies that want to integrate Cartesi in their products. And it's very simple to apply. Basically, people just have to follow what's written on the website. They have to come first with a interesting design, an idea that's plausible, that is viable to implement on Cartesi, and structure that idea in a way that is plausible and feasible, and tell how they're going to implement this idea, breaking down in milestones, and we would have a way to keep funding the project throughout these milestones upon successful completion of these milestones.
Fantastic. And would you be able to tell us how one would apply for a grant with Cartesi? I mean, would they just go straight through your website, or would perhaps they join maybe one of your social channels and contact you there? And how would you apply for a grant with Cartesi?
Yeah, so the entry point is from the website. There is a clear instruction there. Basically, they have to fill out a form But that being said, we try to have a very open relationship with developers on Discord, very warm group of developers that help them. So they're always eager to talk to people that are intending to implement something with Cartesi. So while they are filling the forms or thinking about their ideas, they are also free to contact our tech team on Discord to talk about these ideas.
Fantastic, great, thank you. And for anyone watching the stream now or watching the recorded version, the website that I'm on is just obviously the Cartesi website, which is cartesi.io. And then it's very easy to get to this apply for labs part on the navigation at the top right. There we are, labs. So very easy indeed. So at the moment, after looking through your project for a while, I can see that you've already got some apps sort of on the blockchain OS, as they say. Would you be able to talk us through a couple of these? So, for example, Sim Racer Coin, Poker, and also Crypts. It was very good looking through these projects as well, and they are very fun. I played for a while. Crypts, the little tower defense game. I was impressed. But also I was thinking, well, what relevancy sort of does that have to a blockchain or a blockchain OS?
Very good question. So allow me to just let's start from Crypts because we already have the screen open there, and it was our very first example on Cartesi, right? And if you come back to the beginning of our conversation, you're talking about the scalability issues of blockchain, layer 2 solutions. The idea of people having smart contracts, by the way, the term smart contract was created by Nick Szabo in the 90s, and Ethereum was the platform who gave life to this concept of smart contracts. Smart contracts are supposed to be very, very simple computer programs. And there is a reason for them to be simple is that blockchains don't scale well. You have limited computation, you have limited resources, and it's expensive to compute. So that's why smart contracts were often compared to electronic vending machines, right? That you can implement very, very simple logic, like I put the coin here, then I get my can of Coca-Cola and things like this. And the implementation that we see nowadays on DeFi or anything else, especially on Ethereum, things are very expensive. Developers always have to be very, very concerned about minimizing the usage of computation resources of the blockchain because everything costs a lot of money. So the decentralized exchanges are minimalistic in their code base. Everything has to be very minimalistic and very economic. So they have to implement very simple logic. So the logic of DeFi tends to be very, very simple so that the blockchain can accommodate it. So let's go back to Crypts. So what Crypts has to do with all this idea, right? Imagine if you wanted to, instead of implementing a Uniswap on the blockchain, you wanted to actually implement something that's much more computationally intensive. Let's say a tower defense game, right? And Crypts is a tower defense game. So in a tower defense game, you have a lot of computation because you set the initial conditions, you put your towers around, and when you press go, then the enemy start to triple in, and their tower starts to fire against them. So there's a lot of computation involved there. It would be impossible to conceive this logic running on any blockchain, even on the most fast ones. It's not a matter about being Ethereum or Avalanche or even Polygon chain. It wouldn't run. It's like orders of magnitude above what any blockchain can do. So Crypts is a very important example, demo for us, because it proves our initial idea that not only we can implement a game that's fully decentralized, preserving the security guarantees of the blockchain, using mainstream languages like JavaScript, TypeScript, things that are not available for development of smart contracts, Meanwhile, dealing with billions or hundreds of billions of processing instructions in the computation, which that would not be possible at all on the blockchain, right? So we implement crypts back then in 2019, 2020. We launched together with Binance Launchpad when we went for the first time to an exchange, and people loved it. I don't know if you were there back in that time, but it was a good buzz. It was fun. But the main idea for us was to make this proof of concept.
Great. Yeah.
I can see right now that you are already addicted while we were speaking, right?
Yeah. So when I was researching your project a lot during the last couple of days, well, I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of tower defense games anyway. But I do understand what you mean. That sort of running something like this would be perhaps orders of magnitude too complex for any blockchain at all. So it is very interesting what you're talking about and very unique. So thank you. And that, on to my next question as well.
Maybe
on
you
your
can,
website,
because I can still see your screen with crypts playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we are.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
So as I was saying, just allow me to complete the idea, because it's very important. Then, but back then when we deployed crypts, the Cartesi, the OS, was still under development. We were developing what we call the computational oracle. Basically what allows us to do this huge computation in a decentralized way, backed by the security of Ethereum. But back then, that piece of code, although it was proven to work and the code base is there, anyone can download and test it by themselves, it was not adequate for people to use and develop their own applications, because the API was still immature, was very hard for people to make sense of the codes. So we spent a good amount of time organizing this code base and coming to what called the carts, which was this version of the software that other projects like SimRacer, Coin, like Creole, and even Poker that we implemented could use. So once we had this API well-defined, this product done, properly documented, then we invited people to apply for grants to come with their ideas, right, and develop these ideas on top of this computational oracle. That's when SimRacer comes, Creole comes. And if you want me to give a word about these projects, Creole is a project related to carbon credit, carbon offsets. They were using Cartesi to make sure that measurements that they make in buildings about the consumption of energy and the calculations that they do are inserted on the blockchain. They are inserted in the blockchain in a way that's secure, verifiable, and decentralized. So they actually ported Cartesi to an ARM device. It was a very interesting project and the showcase of the technology. The other, well, by the way, Creole is an interesting idea because it relates to IoT, and we also believe that Cartesi will play an important role for projects related to IoT, smart cities, and so on. Now, SimRacer was developing a marketplace for car simulation competitions, in which they would be able to buy and sell car parts, configuration files, paintings of these cars, and even coaching. So they had this idea of creating this decentralized marketplace in which there would be no central authority mediating this, which is also a very interesting idea related to NFTs, right? You could use Cartesi, just like they were doing, to have a way for people to buy and sell files and things in a decentralized way. And finally, Poker is our project that we did in-house, which was meant to basically, just like crypts, we wanted to prove this computationally intensive paradigm of Cartesi. Poker, we wanted to show mostly the privacy features that Cartesi enables.
Brilliant. Well, again, thank you very much for the in-depth explanation. And that's sort of, well, what you've been saying as well, that you mentioned decentralization a few times, leads me on to my next question, which is, well, about decentralization. So, well, first of all, in your opinion, how important is decentralization in crypto in general? And then also, perhaps, how important is decentralization within Cartesi?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I see nowadays, that's there is a kind of disconnect between the original value of crypto based on decentralization and all the uh, financial speculation and hype that happens around crypto, right? They not always overlap. Sometimes they distance from each other a lot. So on the one hand, you have this search for the holy grail of decentralization. Like Bitcoin is a fully decentralized network for money, for cash, for store value. And Ethereum is a fully decentralized network for smart contracts and so on. But what we see more and more is that sometimes you have much lower degrees of decentralization involved, even when projects are pumping and there is a lot of money involved and so on and so forth, right? And decentralization is very important because there are several properties that are so interesting about decentralization. One of them is this idea that whatever you put on the chain is there forever, right? And you can have programs that self-execute, that are transparent, that cannot be a victim of fraud, that are auditable, and that they run forever. Even if the company who created them disappear for some reason, they will be there. So the way that I look at decentralization is, for me, I see it as a kind of a new layer of reality in the world, right? If you think about emergency theory, that's in the planet, you have a layer, a mineral layer, then a biological layer, then you have humans appear, and then a cultural layer, an information layer, and now suddenly you have this layer that comes with a blockchain that doesn't belong to any particular company or state, and it's there. It kind of belongs to Earth. It's kind of an ontological new layer where things will start to exist, and this is philosophically so interesting. And it's going to take some time, in my opinion, to catch up. Slowly, you're going to have more and more interesting systems that will start to surf on this idea better and better. Right now, we have a lot of these speculation happening in crypto. I would say that most people that are involved with crypto are they have economic interests rather than being there using the apps because they have they're interested in having fun or having social purposes. So in that sense, the internet and Web3, they are very different in their audiences at this point. But I believe that slowly we're going to have more and more applications that will really start to engage an audience that's not only seeking economic profits, right? That will be really enjoying the features of this decentralization. And I believe that will happen through DAOs, through games that are really decentralized, through smart cities and many other things.
Great, thank you. I think, yeah, what you said about what people are going to start enjoying, well, yeah, Web3, crypto, is, yeah, you've said a lot, which is very interesting. Have you got any examples, perhaps, of projects that you think are nearly there, or will be there in the future, that sort of merge economic interest and also crypto fun? for example? I mean, you mentioned lands, and there's obviously projects like Gala, Mana, that sort of thing. But any that perhaps spring to mind that would be an example?
There are a few things I'm particularly interested in the developments of crypto cities and city DAOs and things that are trying to unite governance in the political sphere with crypto and blockchain. And I'm very excited with this. I think that can be an entry point for us to see socially impactful solutions using decentralization, right? And it's very nice to see when politicians start to embrace this idea, like we see in Miami, and pilot projects that are trying to come up with coins for cities and slowly start to give them utility. I want to see also how we can use that for democracy, how people can use crypto and blockchain for collective decision making, right? For better decision making, especially at a time that we're going through lots of crises in the world. So I'm very excited and waiting to see things moving, especially in that area. I see also in games a lot of things happening. I still want to see more decentralized games, fully decentralized, because right now what we have are games that essentially run on a centralized server, but then they have a bridge with a blockchain, and then the players can get their assets outside to the blockchain, and then they can trade those NFTs in the secondary markets. But essentially, that NFT doesn't carry the asset, right? It's just a hash. It's just a number that corresponds to a table that only the game developer, only the server has. And if you shut down that server, the value of an NFT is gone, right? So I want to see real decentralized games and real value for the NFT, especially in the game industry. And that's one of the things that I'm very excited to do with Cartesi as well. We have an eye in the game industry, and we are trying to foster the usage of our technology, especially in gaming.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, I do look forward to fully and truly decentralized gaming, because, as you said, well, yeah, the information essentially with a blockchain game, especially play to earn games, you're essentially just, it's like a normal game to an extent, but just there's blockchain aspects, and the company running the play to earn game can obviously, well, they could
Yeah, exactly.
well, yeah,
And
ban your
then and then you see things like, well, if you think that Bitcoin is a kind of game, right? It is a kind of game because you have a number of participants that are running nodes, collaborating to receive something. So there are clear rules on how people are rewarded by providing their hash power. And if I send Bitcoin to you, I have X minus Y, and you have Z plus Y, and all these rules. So you could imagine that Bitcoin is the first very simplistic game that's decentralized. And now imagine, would Bitcoin have the value? Would it reach the 1 trillion market cap line if it was centralized? Let's say if there was if Google was the company deciding who is going to be rewarded for the next block or mediating the transactions, it would never have that value. Bitcoin only has value because it is fully decentralized, right? So when we think about virtual worlds, games that will preserve throughout time, even if the company dies, when you think about metaverse, all these things, the NFTs of these in-game assets can only have this true value if they really tap into the power of decentralization. Right? And that's one of the things that we believe that with our tech we can really help, because people can develop things with much more tools, and you can use more sophisticated libraries and use the mainstream software that's available for game developers. This is really a radical transition.
Fantastic. Yeah, I do think, yeah, fully decentralized games need to happen? Because I'm part of quite a few sort of GameFi discords and things, and all the time there's people getting banned, which in some cases is fine, but often people are saying, well, I didn't do anything wrong. And with a decentralized system, there wouldn't just be perhaps one person or a company saying, well, you're banned. Essentially, we're going to take away all the benefits of the NFT, just leave it worthless. And what I thought you said as well about Bitcoin as well, Bitcoin only has value because it is fully decentralized. I think that's a fantastic quote. Yeah, very good. Thank you. And so obviously you've got on your website, it says, the CTSI token. I'll just bring it up on the screen quickly. Would you be able to talk to us a little bit about this, perhaps its utility, and also maybe how to well, it says how to get CTSI there, but yeah, so talk us through the CTSI token.
Sure. So CTSI was conceived to be a crypto fuel of sorts, not unlike what you see in Ethereum itself. So in Ethereum, you use Ether to pay your gas fees. So whenever people want to send transactions or send messages or anything, they have to pay validators and node runners Ether for these services. On Cartesi, the same will happen, right? People will have to use CTSI to consume some services for rollups and also for Node. Now, there is a little bit of a name dropping here. We didn't talk about these names before, but Cartesi rollups is our layer 2 solution that brings the operating system per se, the optimistic rollups based system where people can create these applications and have these immense computational benefits. And Node is our data availability ledger, is another blockchain that we are sidechain that we're creating for data availability. So one way of looking at this, imagine that the blockchain OS, that Cartesi is a computer, right? It is a computer, but it's a decentralized computer. But as a computer, what you need? You need a CPU, and you need a network port, and you also need a data storage place, right? So you need these two components. What you're focusing on now is to deliver the Cartesi rollups, which is this, let's say, the CPU of this system. So even for Cartesi rollups, CTSI is going to be used for let's say, for the outputs to be of the Cartesi rollups to be written on chain. There will be a system in which validators and users will have to pay for these transactions to be materialized and brought back to layer 1. Also, when we roll out our aggregator and sequencer, which is the service that can receive lots of input data and transactions and compress them and send them as a compressed block to the blockchain. For the aggregator service, we also need to have CTSI. People have to pay CTSI for these aggregators to do their service of compacting this and putting this information on the layer 1. So CTSI plays a very important role in this system, and it will also play a fundamental role in Node, which is a data availability ledger that we're also building now. And that will be basically for people to insert data. For people to insert data in this data ledger, they will pay fees, CTSI fees, just like people pay ETH to insert transactions on Ethereum.
Wow. Thank you again. And also purchasing CTSI, obviously you can do it on major exchanges. But also one thing on your website that I saw, it looks as though you can pay, well, here it's Great British Pounds, fiat. How does that work? And does it just, well, would I connect my MetaMask to your site there and just, do it like that? Or I'm just double checking that you can pay fiat and then receive CTSI.
Yeah, it's basically we don't do that ourselves. This is the components that we embed in our websites. The company who does that is Transact, so they have this license to do this off on ramp transactions of converting money fiat to crypto, and they have this collaboration with us. They provide this components for us to put on the page, and that's one more convenience tool for people. And as you said, it's just put the credit card there or whatever, and then you can receive CTSI in your wallet. Now, CTSI is also available in the main exchanges like Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, Poloniex, and so on, right? So we are in almost all the most important exchanges in the world, which is also very convenient for people to acquire CTSI.
Fantastic, thank you. And there's a few places where I've noticed nodes and running a node. Can anyone run a node? And also, perhaps, what are the benefits to an individual running a node, and also Cartesi? What are the benefits of more nodes on your ecosystem?
Yeah. So just like in any decentralized network, we want to maximize the number of node runners and also the number of people involved in staking in the system. That's how we improve security and decentralization. Right now we have a number of node runners. Some of them are private node runners. People who have enough Cartesi token can run their own node runners by themselves. We have clear instructions. It's not so hard to do it if you have minimal technical skills. And we also have give the possibility for people to delegate their CTSI to node runner organizations. So there are node runner organizations who set up their nodes, and then they open their pools for anyone to stake their CTSI. So there are these two tracks when it comes to staking your CTSI, that either you can run your own node, or you can just participate in a pool. So you choose your preferred pool, and you give also through our Cartesi Explorer site that maybe you want to show. But people can also see, have an idea, look at the performance and parameters and statistics of node runners to decide on their organizations of choice to stake their CTSI. And then they enter a pool, and then whatever rewards their node runner gets is split proportionally among the stakers. So just like in any other network, Cartesi is also creating ways to maximize the participation rates of CTSI holders in this staking.
Great. Thank you very much again. Thank you. I'm just checking I'm on the right place for essentially staking your Cartesi in a pool. Is this correct, the page that I'm on at the moment?
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah. And to people watching, listening, either live or recorded as well, the website that I'm on is just explorer.cartesi.io. And then click on the pools, and there you are. Fantastic. Thank you. We've covered a lot of aspects about Cartesi, and obviously also blockchain technology. I think we could talk, or I could listen to you talking for hours about this. Is there anything that I've not asked that you'd like to bring up or talk about at all?
Well, this year is a very important year for us, that we have been working for 4 years and building something that we believe to be very important for the future of blockchain applications, right? Building this technology requires a lot of work, not only development, but a lot of research. And our journey has been very, very interesting. And right now, this year is very important because it's the year that we are bringing this thing to reality, where people can start to join and create their applications and launch their applications as well. So it kind of changes the game for us. We are also we've been hiring lots of people. Cartesi has been growing a lot recently. And our objective is to make this the blockchain OS. That also means that we are not only looking at the traditional crypto space, we are also with an eye outside, right? We want to onboard mainstream developers to blockchain. So there is a lot of things that we have to do to communicate not only with crypto people but also with mainstream developers and a broader audience. So that's a big part of our marketing efforts. This repositioning is something that's very important for us. So you see that if you saw our website maybe a week ago when we just launched the new website, our previous website was arcane. It was hard for people to make sense of it, even for developers, right? We needed to understand the jargon of blockchain, like layer 2 and things like this, to grasp the ideas of what they had there. And we are right now with the new branding, with the new marketing positioning. We really want to open the doors for a much broader audience and public and explain to them what we're about. So bringing this OS has implications for many people and even for society in the future. So yeah, I'd like to say this, that this is a very exciting time for us, that we are about to launch the blockchain OS. There are several companies working with us right now, very excited, producing the apps examples, documenting, coming up with ideas. So if you come inside the tech team, you see a lot of activity, a lot of enthusiasm for this endeavor. So we actually have a plan that doesn't really depends on too much on the ups and downs of the crypto market. We have a clear objective in mind and fuel to deliver and put forward our plan and our vision. And there's a lot of determination in this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it certainly sounds as though, yeah, you've got the team, the resources, the ingenuity to execute that. But it's been, yeah, truly eye-opening and very, very interesting talking to you today. And for people interested in learning more about Cartesi, obviously you've got the website cartesi.io. Are there any social channels that you'd recommend for people to follow and join? At all to keep up with your developments?
Yeah, sure. Please feel invited to follow me on Twitter and engage with me there. To follow Cartesi's Twitter as well. Discord, especially if you are a developer, if you have an idea that you want to bring to develop or to enter Cartesi Labs. The best way for you is to go directly to Discord to talk to our tech team. And on our blog, you're going to find a lot of resources and transparency reports. We work to be very transparent to our community in all aspects. And you can follow our technology evolution and everything that we're doing. And we're always open to talk to you through our channels.
Fantastic. So developers that are interested in Cartesi, obviously there's the Discord. And is there perhaps team members there, or well, I assume there's a lot of other community members that you can sort of share ideas with and bounce ideas off. Obviously you've got all the resources online as well. Are there team members on Discord, perhaps, if you're stuck on something? Can you talk to those people there? Would that be
Absolutely.
fantastic?
And they'll be willing to help.
Brilliant.
No, it's very important for us to hear, because since we're about to launch something, we are starting to, up to this point, we're very much inside of our shell. This year we start to get much more interest in this interface with the public. And it's very important for us to hear people, their difficulties, to tune in our technology, to get their ideas and suggestions to improve the convenience as much as possible. So we really encourage people to bring their ideas to us.
Brilliant. Good. Well, thank you very much, first of all, Eric from Cartesi, for joining us. And also thank you very much to our listeners. The tweets that we've got on the BSC News Twitter, if you're watching from there, or the YouTube, they're just on the, the links to Cartesi and also, their project are on the tweets and the announcements that we've made. I do implore you to check them out. It's a very, very unique, in my opinion, and interesting product. So before we wrap things up, Erica, is there any sort of departing words or anything that you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
I'd like to thank you a lot, Tom. It's been a pleasure to meet you and talk to you for this opportunity as well. And these are not easy times in the world. There's a lot of tension. We in Cartesi are very optimistic, hoping for the better. Things will be better, and we are gonna keep doing our job no matter what. And we're very optimistic about the future of the blockchain OS. So thank you very much, and I hope we'll see you soon.
Certainly. Good. Well, thank you very much again, Eric. And yeah, we will certainly keep in contact. And thank you again to our listeners. And have a lovely day, lovely night, wherever you're from. Great. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.